This is Central Texas Living with Ann Harder.
Since we first heard about the novel coronavirus that started in Wuhan, China, a little over 7 months ago now, Waco-McLennan County has gone from 0 cases to now 8,000. One of them is my positive case. And joining me now, 25 News Chief Meteorologist Matt Hines, who has also tested positive and is under a mandatory quarantine. We're recording this, obviously via Zoom, and to keep our Mike Hamilton safe at the Rogue Media headquarters. Matt.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? Oh, you hear about it, and then you're like, oh my gosh, something from China that I heard about months ago has made it into my body.
Yeah, I know.
Easy
I
to
know.
think
So tell me how this all happened with you, because I mean, I know we've all been wearing masks. We've all been taking the precautions we know to take, but still there's a chance for exposure.
Well, it all started with me at my kids' school. They had a positive case in their class. So they started taking some of their kids out, and I notified my HR department at KXXV, and they said, well, let's just keep you home and make sure. And at the time, I had a little scratchy throat and some minor back pain. That's it. I mean, it felt like a mild cold for me. And then they said, well, let's get you tested. Let's just make sure. Let's just get you tested. And we're like, okay. So I went and got tested 2 Fridays ago and didn't think anything of it. I was like, I'm not going to be positive. And I think,
well, let me stop you. So what kind of test did you take? Was it the
it was all the way up the nose.
All the way up the nose. Okay.
Yeah. Mine was up one nostril and then over to the other one.
Yeah. It made your eyes burn.
I mean, yeah, it felt like you had breathed in a bunch of water jumping into a lake or something like that. It's that kind of thing. I'm sure a lot of people can relate that have been tested. So I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think I was positive. And I think that's what a lot of people think. It's allergies. It's a little cold, because you don't go to the doctor automatically. We live in just a different world. We're hypersensitive about a lot of just small things that we would have never thought about in the past. And so my son had a football game the next day. So we went to the game. I was there too. I stayed away from everybody. I had a mask on. I was social distanced, and got the call during the game. And the doctor said, are you in a crowd? And I'm like, well, I'm standing back from the crowd. I'm a long way. And he's like, I'm at my son's football game. He's like, well, you tested positive. You need to go home now. I told my wife. She pulled literally our son off the field, and we went straight home, and I haven't left home since.
Yeah.
And it's the responsible thing to do, but I really didn't think I had it. I just thought we were doing the test for a precautionary purpose, and I did not have any of the major symptoms. I did not lose my taste. I did not do any of that. But after I tested positive, I did start to feel things. And for me, I think a lot of it was mental, because you start thinking, okay, am I going to be getting worse tomorrow? And then that day, am I going to get worse tomorrow? And then I'm going to get worse tomorrow. I mean, you're just kind of counting, because usually days 5 through 10 are usually the worst with coronavirus, from what I've heard. And so I would say last Tuesday was my worst day, where I didn't have shortness of breath. It was just, I had to work to breathe. So my muscles
breathe. What do you mean?
in my back and my chest, I mean, they were just tight. And it wasn't pain really. It was just more difficult to take in a breath. And that started getting me worried. And I think that was a mental aspect. But then the next day, that went away, and I've been up ever since, and I feel fine now. So it's just weird how it's affecting everyone. And I know your symptoms are totally different than mine.
Yeah. It was we're taping this on a Monday, and it was a week ago today that I was sort of feeling like I was catching a little head cold, and but had played 3 sets of tennis, and then went to my book club with 4 other ladies. So all that to say, you start backtracking.
Yep.
And by the time I got home last Monday afternoon, I got the email saying, oh, the previous Tuesday, you were exposed to someone who had tested positive for coronavirus. And so then I thought, oh, well, I'm kind of feel like I'm getting a little bit of a head cold. So I immediately called the doctor, and we talked about it at length. What kind of complicated my situation a little bit was 2 days after my exposure, I went to the doctor for a regular visit to get my flu shot. And so I got my flu shot, and it was time for my pneumonia shot. And because I'm a woman of a certain age, I got my shingles shot. So I had 3 major inoculations, and I was fully expecting not to feel well. And I did not feel well. I was not disappointed in that. So that following Friday and Saturday, I felt a little like the flu, like, oh, I don't feel well, which were all side effects of any of one of those shots. Okay. So that's why when Monday I found out, oh, I'd been exposed to the coronavirus, called the doctor to chat with him about my reactions to those shots. And he was kind of, well, I really don't think you would have felt that bad with those shots. But anyway, all that does, go ahead and be tested. So I tested that Monday afternoon, and it was a pouring rain, and I'm a patient, Baylor Scott White. And so they have 2 testing places. One is at the marketplace, but they stopped doing tests by 1 in the afternoon. And so it was already past, there was like 1:45 that I was talking to the doc. And so he sent me to Belmead. So I went to Belmead, and the doctor did the sticks up the nose test. And it was not until Wednesday morning that I got the call but I had already suspected that was the case, because overnight, Monday night, I did lose my sense of taste and smell. And that was really strange. That had not happened to me since maybe one time when I was a kid. I had a bad enough head cold that it affected that. I don't know, has that ever happened to you, Matt? Have you ever lost
Yeah,
your—
I mean, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you just get so congested and everything, you just lose.
Right. You just can't taste anything. Well, this was kind of different. This was way more profound. I mean, I couldn't smell anything. And so I'm happy to report, though, here a week later, it's coming back. And I have heard that symptom alone can last for a very long time.
Yeah, it can.
Maybe not even come back. So I'm grateful that I can taste food again, and am feeling better. But I never ran any temperature.
I never did either.
And so, which is good. And I had just mild coughing symptoms, not really a whole lot of
Same here.
profound symptoms other than the fatigue. And the fatigue was very real.
Yes. And I've heard the fatigue can last even a little longer. So, I mean, I'm just taking it slow. I notice if I do something physical now, and if it's for 20 or 30 minutes, I notice I start getting tired a little faster than normal.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can definitely feel it. I definitely know I've had it. But like I said earlier, I would have never dreamed of getting tested.
Right.
Just work tell me, hey, let's just take a precautionary, and just in case. Well, the just in case happened. And that's—
Well, you are. So let's talk about your family. So anybody else have any symptoms? Have they all been tested? How does that?
Yeah, my wife tested negative, and the kids have exhibited 0 symptoms, and they've been fine. And of course, they tell you to stay away as much as possible. So it's hard not hugging your kids goodnight, and your wife kissing her goodnight and everything. That,
I know.
Again, that's part of the mental part. It's not, we're human beings. We're meant to have contact with them.
Yeah.
And
well, but you don't want them to get it. But
no, exactly.
That's the ironic thing, is that I was contagious apparently 48 hours prior to my symptoms. So that if my symptoms really kicked in on Monday, that would have been Saturday.
Yeah.
And so then you backtrack, who was I really around? Who did I have interaction with? Well, obviously my husband, and thankfully so far he has had zero effect of it.
And that's what makes this virus so weird. You don't know how your body's going to handle it till you're exposed to it or you have it. And a lot of people are like this. A lot are, but it's the small percentage that have the major complications, and then another percentage that die. And
right. Oh yeah.
And again, you start thinking about that. It's like, this has killed 200,000 plus people now in
Right.
the States. That weighs on your mind when you're told you're positive. You can't help it. You try to stay as positive as possible, but you're just like, okay, well, how does my body going to handle it? Well, now we know. Now we know my body can handle it. We know your body can handle it so far.
So far, yeah. And the other interesting thing is, of course, the question a lot of folks are wondering about herd immunity as more and more people do contract the virus, despite precautions they take. What does that mean for herd immunity? But from what I understand, we still, even though we've had the virus, or in my case, still having the virus, it will only give maybe 4 weeks of immunity.
Yeah.
So
That's
those
what I've heard the same thing.
precautions still need to be taken.
For sure. But I don't want to go through it again, but it is kind of a relief to know that my body can handle the virus, at least this first round, and that's good. Hopefully there's no second round, and take the precautions that need to be taken. But I'm definitely glad that we're both okay. And we've known people together that have had it as well, and they're okay. So hopefully we'll just continue to be okay. But again, it's each individual, and the symptoms are different for each individual. That's what makes this so hard to diagnose.
Right. So did you have
a scratchy throat, or are you going to go get tested?
Yeah, is it, I live in Waco, so I get allergies. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That's the
ragweed's high
question. Yes. And I want to reiterate that I do not regret that I got my flu shot and my pneumonia shot. And, even though it kind of may have lowered my resistance some, and kind of, anyway, it was a lot from my system to take in all of those shots. But I do not regret that, because as we are going into flu season, I mean, it is so crucial that we take every precaution we can that's available to us to guard against the seasonal flu, because we know it's a killer as well, and certainly way more dangerous for children.
Yeah. And I was going to get my flu shot last week. Well, obviously that didn't happen. So I still got to wait until I'm fully recovered to get the flu shot, but definitely plan on getting that.
Well, if I can ask you, who has been your caregiver? How have you been through the Baylor Scott & White system, or?
I just did through Premier ER.
Okay, that's where you went and got tested.
Yeah, that's where I went and got tested.
Okay, well, I have to say, Baylor Scott & White, what they have done, immediately I was on a kind of a call list, so that twice a day they check in with me.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's just basic questions like, you're getting enough fluid in, are you, do you have a temperature, how's your cough, are you coughing anything up, just kind of basic things. And my response had been pretty much, no, everything's fine. They go, it sounds like you are recovering nicely, they say, but you might feel poorly. So, here are all the suggestions. And I have since spoken to someone from Baylor Scott & White, and in chatting with her, and they gave me some other numbers to call, and they've been very thorough about it. But her comment to me was, she said, I talk to people all day long. This is all I do, is call them on the phone that have had a positive COVID test. And she said, everyone is different.
Yeah.
She said, everyone is different. She said, I've had a 78-year-old who just flew through it, and then had a 19-year-old who was on the way to the ER when they were calling. So it's, it's, of course, asthma, there are all these underlying conditions that folks have to be so very cautious about. And in my case, I take some meds for high blood pressure. So I'm kind of concerned about that. But I would say they just lately, because I know you had talked to me about the mental aspect of this, and you begin to think about every bad scenario that you've heard of. But they also have a lot of resources as well for mental health. And I had gone on the cdc.gov, and there is a lot that's already been kind of compiled for folks, that if you get a positive diagnosis and you're starting to feel stressed, and I just got another message from Baylor Scott & White. Okay, so and they must have heard me talking about it.
Yeah.
But there's a disaster distress hotline, National Suicide Prevention Hotline. domestic violence hotline, all these things we're hearing as being ramifications, well, number one, of people being locked down and in quarantine, child abuse hotline, a sexual assault elder care locator, just there's lots and lots of information, basically, I wanted to say, online for folks who are having to deal with the stress of maybe a positive COVID diagnosis, and those who are maybe caring for family members who have a positive diagnosis as well. But one of the things they suggest is to kind of limit your time on social media and limit watching podcasts and that kind of thing.
But here's the thing, I didn't take a day off, so I was doing my job and I was seeing all the COVID stuff every single day. Right. So I tried to tune it out as best as possible, but it's there. And actually, we did have a sheriff's deputy die in McLennan County. And that's
absolutely
the time when I was feeling the worst too. And I was like, oh, great. I mean, it just creeps into your head. You don't know, is this it for me or is it going to continue to go downhill? And I'm very fortunate. Turned around really quick.
It's certainly crucial to rest, drink plenty of fluids. The kind of the typical things when you have any kind of virus, really, the typical things: Tylenol, ibuprofen, those kind of things for pain relief, and just stay in communication with the medical professionals about it. Did you have a visit from the health department?
Yes, I had two.
So
McLennan County and the Texas Department of Health.
You know, the Texas Department of Health has not gotten in touch with me.
So I had two, and they were both within an hour of each other.
Really? No,
yeah, it was all on the same day.
The local health department is who contacted me, and then they sent me an email saying, "Here's the dates you need to be in quarantine," and so forth.
Yeah. So here we are. We've had COVID-19 in 2020, and it's just one of those where it's a relief now. I'm getting to my day 14 and beyond, and hopefully there can be complications afterwards as well that you have to watch out for.
Right. In fact,
I
had a regular appointment with my cardiologist. I had to, just like every year, just kind of checking in on some of the meds, and so I'm going to reschedule that appointment. They said 6 weeks after you're positive COVID, but just to double check, because viruses do have a way of kind of settling in on vital organs, and they're just not sure exactly what all COVID can do.
Yes, so it's just something you have to watch out for going forward. But as of now, I'm feeling pretty good. So
right. So when is your your confinement up?
This is the last week for me. So I should be back in freedom next week. Doesn't mean I'm going back to work immediately. I've heard that you can test positive for up to 5 weeks. And that's from a pretty good source. And so if I get retested and I test positive again, do I have to do this all again, even though it's probably just a marker and not really an active contagious or anything? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, because what I was told by my physician was 10 days after symptoms started would be when I would then be able to be around people, which seems pretty soon.
Yeah, that's really soon. So
you hear so many different things. I guess that's the other puzzling part about this.
Just listen to what your doctor says. I mean, whatever your doctor says is what we should go with. So each individual doctor has maybe a slightly different opinion, but go with what your medical professional says. Right.
Well, Matt, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to cover. So everybody in your household's okay. My husband's standing at the door. He's okay. And certainly he was exposed before I even knew I had been exposed myself. So anyway, we'll keep hoping for the best.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be fine, and I really feel bad for the people that have had major complications with this.
Right.
Have died from this, and that's a very serious subject. And it's very touchy, and it's like you said, like we said earlier, how does it affect you? And you only know until you get it.
Well, and then it obviously it affects other people that you're around, because
Yes.
that was kind of the big thing, backtracking. Certainly the
Mhm.
three ladies I played tennis with a week ago, plus the three that I was in a book club with, that I was the most concerned about, because we were sitting at a table. And so all of that, one is being tested today, but so far everyone has either tested negative or has no symptoms. So,
Good.
and will be tested because of that, direct exposure. So certainly hoping for the best. And my tennis ladies, nobody's had any. Of course, they say tennis is one of the safest things you can do,
Yeah, you're outside.
because you're
That's good.
outside, right? And you're naturally socially distanced when you
Hmm.
play tennis. And we've kind of just been, there used to be the old protocol was when you were done playing, everybody shook hands with everybody. Well, we just don't do that anymore. So,
Tap rackets.
yeah, right. You tap rackets instead of high fiving. You tap
Yeah.
rackets when there's been a good shot made, and and so far, I'm very grateful that that is the case, for those ladies as well. Because I mean, none of us would want to give this to somebody. I mean,
No, 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 no. That's the last thing you would ever want, for someone to have to, even if even if they have mild symptoms, it's still that, oh my gosh, I gave it to someone. So that's why
right.
I'm home. That's why I'm going to be home until they tell me it's okay to go out. Work has had me home. I haven't had any physical contact with anyone. And yeah, it kind of drives you insane. I know I definitely don't want to go to prison ever in my life.
Right.
I want to get out of the house and get out of I mean, it's just, whoa, yeah, I don't, it's,
But as you said, you've kept on working, and so
yes.
you've been
And
busy.
that was to keep my mind like not
Yeah.
just sitting around. There
Yeah.
were there's probably Monday and Tuesday I probably should have taken off, but I
Because
like
you tell you felt
my
kind of
job. So, I mean, it's
tired.
hard
Yeah.
for me just to sit. And I think there's a lot of people out there. It's just hard to sit and go, okay, I really am not doing anything. I don't want that feeling.
Well, so we have entered the fall season, though. We can talk a little bit of weather if you want in the last few minutes. It
Ragweed.
is nice, yeah. But yes, again, then we have ragweed, and we have
And
all
that
of
doesn't go away till the first freeze, which on average is right before Thanksgiving. So we got a long ragweed season to go. So
them.
we're going to have allergy concerns, and you're going to feel that even if you don't have COVID. And again, it's just one of those, have you been around someone that's had it? Do you know someone who's had it? That's probably when you should be tested. But it's
Yeah,
just hard when you have a scratchy throat and it's like, well, this happens to me every year. And that's exactly what I thought. And then
yeah.
happened to test positive.
Well, it is something that's affecting everybody until we do have a really good vaccine for this, and they're working hard on that. I have every confidence that will happen, but
But how long is the vaccine? Like, is it going to be like the flu shot? Are you going to get a COVID shot and a flu shot every year because the strains change? Or I mean,
well, yeah, because and there are stories about it changing
mhm.
and morphing as viruses are known to do.
Yep.
So it could very well be that this is something that will be with us for a long time. But we are looking forward to the day when the pandemic is over and we can resume.
And it will end. The
It
Spanish
will
flu
end.
ended. It will end. It's just going to take a while. Have to be
Well,
patient.
I appreciate so much you taking some time to share with me as we've kind of compared notes on our COVID journey. We do pray that everybody stays safe from this, and as we continue our period of quarantine and kind of hunker down and just eat a lot of soup and drink a lot of Gatorade
That's
and
what I've been
and,
doing.
and marshal
And
on through.
and take care of each other. If you think that you have it, if you think you've been exposed, do the responsible thing and get tested, because then you'll know, then you know not to spread it around to anyone else. And that's how we're really going to get a handle on this. And I know that politically, this is a huge thing of mask and no mask, but I choose to wear a mask and I'm going to continue to choose to wear a mask. So that's just my 2 cents worth on that.
Well, I think our attitudes may, be very similar in that at least it's something that we can do
Yes.
to try to mitigate.
If I had to wear a piece of cloth to get this over with in 6 months instead of a year, fine.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's just mental, and we're just doing it for mental purposes. I mean, we don't know everything, but if they say, hey, just wear a mask just because, okay. I mean, I just don't see how that's a lot of harm just to wear a mask, and we won't be masked forever. I don't think this is going to be forever. We're going to not be able to wear masks in public again. It will happen.
We're all looking forward to that day.
Yes.
And again, if anybody has any
because
questions,
you can't understand. It's hard to understand someone when you're
well,
talking.
that's true. Yeah.
Order, and they're like, "What did you say?" Because you can't read lips. You don't realize how much you read lips until someone has a mask on.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, exactly.
But if there are any questions out there, cdc.gov has got lots of information, and the Waco-McLennan County Public Health District, or your county public health district, wherever you are, we'll have the very latest information for you on the numbers, the number of positive cases. Right now, there are, I think, 418 active cases in Waco. They've tested almost 60,000 people.
We're two of them.
So we are two of them, Matt. So I'm grateful to you. Thank you so much. And we'll check you on the weather a little bit later.
All righty. Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye-bye, y'all.
Central Texas Living is part of the Rogue Media Network family. Be sure to check out their other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Living, the podcast.
This has been Rogue Media Network Podcast.